Oh, it's being recorded. Good.
And for those of you who can, please mute yourselves. We might help you if we need to. And Molly, I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Megan. Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to see you today and have you join us for our Possibility Talk. My name is Molly Kearney. I am the Executive Director of Art Possible Ohio. We are the statewide service organization on the arts and disability, and we work with artists of all ages to help make the arts and cultural experiences in Ohio more accessible and inclusive. I am a white woman with shoulder-length curly brown hair. I'm wearing a blue scarf and a red shirt, and I'm sitting in my basement office today with a little bit of art on the background. I want to thank first and foremost our funders for this program, the Ohio Arts Council, the Greater Columbus Arts Council, and the Ohio Department of Education. Those are the three organizations that fund us the most, and we are super grateful for not only the actual funding, but for all of the additional support that those three organizations offer for us. They're just wonderful organizations. They have a lot of value added whenever you become a grantee as far as professional development and stuff like that. I also want to thank Elizabeth Sammons. I've known her for a good long while, back when I was in grad school in like 2009 was I think when I first met her. She is just a wonderful, funny, enjoyable person to spend time with. And we are super grateful that she has decided to be here with us today and share some of her wonderful work. In addition, I have one of my other favorite people here today, Megan Feitz, and I'm going to kick it to her to do our housekeeping and do the rest of our introduction. So take it away, Miss Megan.
Great. Thank you, Molly. And welcome, everybody. We are so excited to have you here today. I'm going to keep this pretty brief. The way this is going to go today is I'm going to do a quick few housekeeping things, and then I'm going to introduce Elizabeth. Actually, I'll let her introduce herself, and she will lay out how the workshop is going to go. First, I do want to let you know that our captions are enabled. So if you go to the very bottom of your viewing device today, your screen, there should be a little button that you can press to enable those, but and then the captions will appear on your screen at the bottom. You are able to move captions anywhere you would like to on your screen, should you choose to use them. The other thing is we are going to be using the chat today. Elizabeth might have some times when she opens things up and you can raise your hand or speak, but also at any point you could put something in the chat and Molly and I will read those out when appropriate, or if there's a natural pause in Elizabeth's presentation and things like that. So go ahead and put any questions or anything you need to in the chat. And again, we just ask that you mute yourself until we tell you you can unmute today, just so we can hear Elizabeth very clearly. And as a reminder, we are recording this today. We will be sending this out to anyone who registered for this event. You will get that link via email after a few days after the presentation today. So without further ado, I'm going to let Elizabeth Sammons take it over. If Elizabeth, just give me about 5 seconds to unpin myself and pin you, and then we will be ready to go. Oh, and as a reminder, if anybody wants to pin Elizabeth, you just right click on the top part of the top right corner of her picture and you can pin her, and then her beautiful face will fill your screen. All right, here I go, Elizabeth.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you so much for coming and talking about pinning. I guess I never thought about being a pinup girl, but you know, there are always new things in life, right? I had also not thought about a physical description, because today what I want to do is really reveal some of my heart and mind and spirit to you. But having said that, my heart and mind and spirit are shielded by scholarly glasses that protect eyes that do not see the world visually the way other people do, and a tall, slim body with a red shirt and blonde hair and a swanky gold chain. So there we have my little description. Again, thank you so much for coming. Right up front, I'm going to tell you what my goals are here so that we can kind of join those together. I want to empower you to be able to read and write with a greater awareness of multiple sensory input. But today, as I was taking a walk, I thought, you know, that may be the goal that I'm stating, but really in life, it's a question of being even more aware than we already are of the things around us that far surpass just what we see with our eyes, even though those things are very important as well. And before I go any further, to say thanks and to say a few other things, I would like to dedicate this talk to the more than 6 million souls now in our world who have passed away of COVID. As you know, the United States has recently hit the 1 million mark. And in dedicating this, I'm going to read you a poem. I had COVID about a month ago, and I literally wrote this poem while I was sweating and shivering in bed. But I felt like many of us, you know, when something happens to us, we don't know how we're going to feel about it. And I just felt this need to express, because quite honestly, I didn't know which way it would go. And I wanted to leave something. So this is for all of us who have had either ourselves COVID or had loved ones, called It's Not That I'm a Martyr. I don't mean this as a martyr, but hailing these creatures with the look of sweet pod, I find harmony. One friend's phrase punctured my skin-tight peace. The pain is my vaccination. Well, thank communist China, that's all I have to say. Nobody wanted this. Nothing forced it on us. But to date, the fate of many million souls was sealed with the invisible partners scatter in the air we share, breath to breath, lung to lung. No, I'm not a martyr, not yet at least. Rather, my clanky cough and shuddering bones hold marrow of solidarity with every country of our world, with life inhaling and expiring. You're not much, I taunt my deadly seed pods, because I can still smell just fine, taste my food, write this poem right here in bed. Yet I know, short-handed, this corona could crown my life passing. It hears my laughter and runs up, mad as a man once pumping my shoulder in his urban flight to nowhere, mouth foaming with words of nothing. It splashed my untuned ears. No, this virus, it is no joke, no pass-through. It makes me invite you. Come young or aged, English-tongued or tonal, even come silenced, and think in awe what infects us. Labyrinth of life, chemistry of its end. No, I don't mean this as a martyr. As one filled with stars I cannot see, yet circulate their orbits, both deepening and surpassing my universe. Another reason I wanted to read you that poem and dedicate it to those who have passed away is just to tell you that I'm really not always a time machine back in the Roman Empire or writing sonnets like what you're going to hear today. I am in the here and now. And being in the here and now, I really want to thank Art Possible Ohio for giving me the privilege of being able to speak to you today, to share the joy of creativity and a viewpoint that is a non-visual viewpoint that may expand a little bit of the way you see your world and the way you want to read about it, or what you notice when you read, what you notice when you write. Some of you don't know this group, but basically Art Possible Ohio, which used to be called VSA Ohio, is an organization that assists and offers very valuable support to artists of any disability in any art form all over the state of Ohio. And they have done this for many, many years. They have an awesome annual arts exhibit and sale of both youth and mature artists. And I cannot say enough good about them. So if any of you find you have a little bit of extra change lying around, I know that Art Possible would be very happy to help you with that issue. But again, thank you so much, Megan and Molly, for allowing this to happen. So I would tell you a little bit about myself, and I want to be brief because I really want to get on to what we're talking about today. I have a master's degree in journalism, which certainly affected my writing from Ohio State University. I was born blind. I've also had the privilege of living in 5 different countries as an exchange student and working and doing some various things with my travel. But I also, ever since I was early teen, I've been very fascinated with time travel. Now, I've not written much sci-fi, definitely nothing I'm going to publish, but the book that I am going to read from today, or have Molly and Megan read from, the name of it is The Lyra, L-Y-R-A, like lyre, the instrument. The Lyra and the Cross. It is set in Roman times, Greco-Roman times, set in both Greece and Jerusalem. And of course, to write any serious historical novel, you do lots and lots of research. And there were 2 things that I researched. I'll talk about the first one, where we're going to read a short excerpt first. Running a race. And the person who is witnessing this race, as you will probably pick up as you read this, and the reader will know this by the time they get here in the book, is a young Jewish scholar who was born with disabilities, particularly the inability to walk very well. But he's here at the invitation of a friend, really not wanting to be here, but there to be a loyal friend. And I also had the chance, while I was thinking about how this would be for someone who couldn't run, witnessing a race, to interview a semi-professional runner, and to think of myself if I were to not see a race, but experience it the way I experienced it. So in the excerpt that you're about to hear, you're going to, I hope, visualize the race, but notice what senses we talk about and what we hear about this young man who is both seeing and not seeing the race. And if you could go ahead and read that excerpt.
When the gate springs upward from its hooks and the track resounds with the sandals pounding, I must close my eyes. I hear them like drums losing rhythm. The vigor, the power of them, all this nearly conquers my spirit. How light and easy this run of theirs sounds. Some sandals skipping like stones over water, others shaking the wind with their thudding. In my lashes, through the tears I do not shed, I can feel the vibration of their energy, the perfection of their footfalls. In the pounding of this race, I feel anew their shattering mirth, the torments they inflicted every day as I suffered in my studies. Their feet sounded just like this when they ran off, hurling their taunts back on me like sparks, knowing that I could pursue not even the slowest of them. I shudder anew with the shaming of my body.
I shudder anew with the shaming of my body is really the point of this passage that I was conveying. But because it is a race, I wanted people to feel what it would be like to experience this, and using a few of the other senses, and really, if you were to put it in 21st century terms, a little bit of post-traumatic stress, hearing this and feeling this, and his remembering how horrible it was for him in childhood with maybe some of these same runners. By the way, I'm not going to give away too much of the story, but the man that he is rooting for wins and gives this witness a big surprise. And it ends up not nearly as horrible as this witness thinks it will. But you're just going to have to read The Lyra and the Cross to know what happens on that. I'm going to do a little time travel now myself, which, by the way, this book was published in 2018. But when I was in college, I wrote a poem, and I was very deliberate writing this poem. I wanted to include everything that I experienced on a kind of a misty fall day in Boston, Massachusetts. So as you listen to this, I would just like you to, in your mind, keep a little tally of the senses that you perceive from this and how this makes you feel as you're hopefully walking along with me. I based the beginning of this poem. Robert Frost published a book called You Come Too. And I called this poem Come With Me Now. So I definitely want to give a little shout out to Robert Frost for his title, which I slightly changed. And the name of the poem, actually, I misspoke there. The name of the poem is Leaves, but the idea is You Come Too. Again, let's be attuned to the senses as I recite this poem for you. Come with me now and see the silver sky that golden leaves with turning gestures grace. Breathe in the wind an ever-spinning lace of fragrance, mold-marked twigs, smoke threading by. Come with me now and hear the shifting sigh of wind-whirled, molded branches as they race round on the ground. Pilgrims bound for no place. Smile while their colors blaze before they die. Taste, tingling on your tongue, cold autumn mists before their droplets soften to your face. Your pearly breath fluttering, fine and free. And someday, if you make your own such trysts without me here to rhyme your fond embrace of nature's beauty, then remember me. Now, granted, the last lines of that sonnet are a little bit romantic teenager, but I still like it. And I hope that you enjoyed a very brief walk in the woods that could allow you to feel just a little bit what the feeling of a New England fall is. And I know we've got someone here from New England, from the state of Connecticut. I believe my aunt is here. And I hope she would say amen to that feeling of the fall in New England. I want to give you just one more reading. We might do a reading at the very end. We'll see how time is. But this one is back in my novel, The Lyra and the Cross. So what we usually call a guard is a watchman. Why? Because he's watching around. And this brief excerpt from a totally different chapter of the book, we're in Athens at this point, is set in a theater. And it's your first finding out about this watchman, who later you find out his nickname is the Eagle. But in the very beginning, as he introduces himself, you're going to find out that he is very, very attuned to his entire world of far beyond what he can see. Just to give you a little historical note, in Athens in the time of the 1st century AD, Greek women, there was no nice Greek woman who would go to a play. It was only the girls who were trying to pick someone up. And so, in fact, it was really considered pretty bad for any woman to go. So this is what he discovers. And I will have you read the second passage down, please.
A coin clinking on the cobblestone catches my ear, but what makes me turn my head is the misplaced scent of a woman. Nose on alert, I spot her at once. The breath of roses, spiced with laurel no man would wear, wafts out from her boy's robe. She sweeps to the ground and catches the bouncing gold piece I heard, her reach so deft that the men around her scarcely notice.
Okay, so we have a little bit of visual in there, but we have the sound, the clink of the coin, which again, I like to make the sounds. Like I could have just said a coin falling, but I like to, we use a little bit of the sound. We have obviously the smell, and not just the smell, but the description of that smell. He analyzes it with his very good nose. And incidentally, it was really cool. I got to go to Athens a few years after writing this novel, and they had in the Museum of Antiquities, they had an actual perfume, and I got to smell it, and it was exactly or almost exactly as I imagined this young girl's perfume to be. That was an exciting moment. So now that we've kind of immersed you a little bit in the senses, I am going to give you a 1-minute challenge, and this is going to be something we don't need to You don't need to share aloud, but I will invite you perhaps to write something in the chat that we can read if you're able to do that. I would like you for 1 minute, and we're just going to give it 1 minute, you can do anything you want to in the next minute after I stop talking. But you need to keep your eyes closed. And I want to challenge you to find out at least one new thing about your environment that you are in, wherever you are now, except if you're in a car, please don't close your eyes. If you're anywhere else except a car. And we're going to start as soon as I stop talking. And in 1 minute, we will come back and I will invite you to write some comments in the chat. So starting right now for 1 minute, and I'm going to put a timer on. Set timer for 55 seconds. Okay. Blowing of the fans overhead, good. So you know there are fans there, even if you didn't know before. Okay, now we can have this. The minute is done. You may open your eyes. Ah, something hurting your ear. That, oh yeah, sometimes when you pay attention, something can get really irritating. I was noticing the sparrows fighting outside my window. I wouldn't be able to see them anyway, but there they are. Anyone else?
If anyone is more comfortable raising their hand and speaking out, I can call on you. So
Cars driving by, planes overhead. Yeah, the environment. And we do hear that as opposed to seeing it. Thanks, Chanika. Yeah, rustling leaves. Oh, someone's thinking about my poem of leaves too. Love it. Ohio birds. Connecticut. Yes, very nice.
Deanna, do you want to unmute? I see your hand is raised.
Hi, Elizabeth. Well, since I don't have to close my eyes to have the effect, I had my hand on the top of a Perkins Braille writer, and it was very cold compared to the rest of the room and everything because it's mostly metal. And I have warm fleece-lined slippers on my feet. And in the very far distance, there is a little rumble of thunder. We're having thunderstorms today in Missouri. So that's what you got for me.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that metal can be really cold. We'll allow maybe something on the table. I missed that, but
Can read it. It says the corner tables I have in front of me are close enough that my fingers can run from one to the other without dropping.
oh, nice. Okay. And I bet all of you, even in 1 minute, probably discovered something that you didn't realize about your world, which is, oh, sorry, I didn't even need to put this on. Stop. There, now you really stopped. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of fun now. You've heard some different words, both words that you've been hearing that others have said, and you've heard some words that I talked about, like the clanky cough and the silver sky and the mold-marked twigs. We are going to break out at this point into 4 breakout rooms, one for each sense other than vision. We're going to have hearing, or I should say sound, taste, touch, and smell. And I would like you to choose a room. There are no right or wrong choices here. So if we end up with one room with, 16 people and one with 2, that's all right. And then in the next 3 or 4 minutes, I'd like you to choose in your groups at least 5 words that really describe that sense or describe something that you have sensed using that sense. And then we can come back and kind of report in. You can either put that in the chat, or if you'd like to have somebody speak about it from your group. So I'm going to give you just a moment to get into the breakout rooms, and we will allow, let's just say 3 to 4 minutes on that. And then we'll give you a 1-minute warning when we're bringing the rooms back in.
And I've just opened them. You have the option to go ahead and click join next to whichever sense you would like to explore.
If you can't see it, to the bottom of your screen, there's some text that says breakout room. You click on that and then you'll see where you can join. It's a little blue button.
And if there are any access issues for anyone on this, don't worry about it. Just think for yourself of a sense, and
Yes.
you can feel free to chime in. So this is not something, you know, that's going to be a pass fail of any kind.
We can also assign you to a room, it looks like, if you tell us which one in the chat you would like to join. So.
You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, Chanika needs a room. Maybe the room where there are the fewest people. Set alarm for 2 minutes. See, this is the easy part where I get to just let everybody do their work.
Okay, now see if I'm I don't know.
Deanna, do you want us
Yeah.
to add you to a room? We can just
Yeah,
add you.
I tried, but I
There's
could see.
there's only 2 with people in them. There's smell and taste, right, Molly?
Deanna, this is Elizabeth. Since you're still there, hi.
Hi.
Could you, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Could you maybe say a few words if we're breaking out sharing about touch? Would you be willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay, because I know you're good at that. Yeah. It's so nice to have you here. I really appreciate
Well,
it.
I saw your invitation, so I put it on my calendar.
Thank you. Because I know you've got a lot going on, so.
Oh, life gets insane.
It does. It does.
Trying
Doesn't it?
to arrange for my husband's care while I'm away
Mm.
for 7 days train with a new guide dog. So it's all bedlam. I spent the morning on Amazon ordering things that I didn't have time to go shop for.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Should we give people a 1-minute warning maybe and just go ahead and close then for the breakout rooms? And for Molly and Megan's benefit, I have to tell you, my friend Deanna has written one of the most amazing books about service dogs with just this incredible understanding and experience and love of the different personalities of her different canine friends and, you know, differences between, say, shepherds and labs and how it is to work with these. She is an amazing writer. I just have huge respect for you, Deanna, as a writer. And thank you.
Yes, and we've been friends ever since we met at an ACB convention
Yeah,
years
that was
ago.
when it was in Ohio. I don't remember
Yes,
which
it
year.
was. It was in Columbus. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe 2012, 2013, something around there, I think.
Cool. Well, welcome, Deanna. We're glad to have you here. That's awesome.
Okay, so people are coming back in now, it sounds like. Okay.
Yes.
So feel free to unmute yourselves, or if your group chose a spokesperson. It sounds like we only had, interestingly, we had just the two groups, and then my friend Deanna, who is going to talk a little bit about touch. We had, was it smell and sound, was it?
Taste, I think, was the other
Taste,
one.
smell and taste. Okay. Anybody from the taste group, what did you find?
Danica, do you want to share or do you prefer me to?
Sure, I can share and then you can hop in.
Sounds good.
So the first word that came to mind for me for taste was home and heritage, because I thought of Thai food and how that's been such a big part of my life and heritage. And so then the word culture came up, and also community, because it's something that can be shared when you share a meal. And we also said it was very multifaceted, because you could have, you know, salty, sweet, sour, bland, like there's different types of taste. Did I leave anything out?
That was great, Chanika. I think the only one that was missing was nourishment.
Oh, yes,
that was the other one you mentioned, and that was a really good one too. Yeah, that was everything.
You know, and the interesting thing about every word you both said, thank you for that, is all those words definitely associate with taste, but not necessarily directly. And all of those words can go so far beyond taste. Even words like salty or bland, we can use those if we're talking about a food, but we can also use those if we're talking about, you know, an experience. Just like culture and home, you know, we don't necessarily immediately think of that as taste, and yet for many of us it is taste. So great, thank you for that. How about our smell group?
I think she posted to the chat.
Okay.
Somebody did.
Yeah, it looks
Can you
like,
read that?
yeah, it looks like Sylvia wrote discussion of touching lavender evoked descriptions of smells, or descriptors, I'm sorry. Velvety, nostalgia, pungent, calming, inviting, and healing.
Nice. Lavender is such a beautiful plant and such a beautiful smell. And again, thank you for those 6 words. And again, we'll notice the overlap between the denotation, so the actual, you know, the actual direct meaning of the word, and then the connotation of how those words are so much bigger than what we're even using to describe lavender. And that's great. Deanna, sorry to isolate you, call you by name, but what you can get me back for this, but what would you say about touch?
Well, your entire body is a sensor. And when you are totally blind, as I am, you feel everything with your entire skin, like the surface you're walking on, the feel of air currents against your skin that might tell you that there is a solid object in front of you, like a wall or a tree trunk. The feeling of light and shadow, because shadow can be cast by a building, a branch, but sunlight on your face makes you feel warmer and happy even when the weather is chill. All of those are sensations of pressure or heat and cold or texture. And when you use your entire body like that, it's amazing to me. In my family, I am the only visually impaired person, but I'm the finder, because sighted people never look behind things, under things, and they don't brush a jacket hanging on a chair and hear the car keys that someone's looking for in the pocket. You know, it's tuning into your entire body that makes us capable and competent in our world.
Oh, could I quote that? Our tuning into our body is what makes us, what did you say, capable and confident in our entire world? That is so lovely. That, Deanna, I think you just, next time, please, you give this talk, okay? That's lovely. Yeah. And true. Yeah. I really resonate with that. We're sort of borderline. I was going to give you an exercise, and I might do that if we end up having time at the end. I know we've got a few extra minutes right now to do, but I thought, since I've read a few excerpts and you've done some very simple, brief exercises, both individually and now as groups, first of all, thank you for participating, all of you. And I know all of you did, even if not all of you spoke. But whether it's as an artist, a writing artist, or as a human being, or otherwise, do you have any questions for me regarding involving sensory input in writing or reading that you'd like to ask? I would be happy to, if there's anything you'd like to discuss. That's really sometimes where the best part of the dialogue comes in. You can either put in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and Megan or Molly will acknowledge you.
Feel free to just also unmute yourself too. We are a small enough group that I think that should be fine if you just want to unmute and go ahead and talk. Oh, we do have, are there particular prompts you use to brainstorm your senses? Is a question we just received in the chat from Chunika.
No, I've never given a talk like this before. So I really just wanted to give you a few examples, primarily from my writing and kind of my thinking behind those examples to share something. But actually, as an end exercise, I'm going to give you something for all of you that you can pursue that I think will enhance your awareness of writing or reading with sensory input. So that one is to be continued, Shanika.
I see that. Sylvia, you have your hand raised. Feel free to speak.
As a survivor of trauma, one of the things I find is that calming my senses and being less alert is an ongoing practice. And so would anyone gathered here have wisdom to share in that process from your own experience, or things that you have encountered? Thank you.
Sylvia, that's a really interesting question. And it's sort of, I like it because it's sort of the antithesis to what my thesis is saying, come alive, be aware, pay attention everywhere. But there is a time and a place to simply say, I don't want too much coming into me, because if it's too much, it can really be overwhelming. And in those cases, sometimes, luckily for most people, in some ways, luckily, people who have all five senses in use get the vast majority of their information through vision. Now, having said that, Deanna just gave us a beautiful example of how our entire skin is touch. And in fact, that's one reason I always walk in soft shoes, because I want to feel the earth under my feet and make sure if there's a contour that would make me slip, I'm going to know that. And I feel Deanna nodding on that. But there are times when either if it's the major sense that's bothering us, if we're able to just try to pay more attention to the other senses, or, for example, maybe if there's some lighting that's bothering us, maybe being able to listen to some calming music, or if it's the music that's too loud, maybe being able to eat something that has a really, spicy or wonderful taste that we like, or smell some lavender that has that tingly smell that kind of takes away from that. So I guess my advice would be maybe a little bit concentrating on another sense, as opposed to really dulling ourselves, but looking at a different sense. Other questions?
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Elizabeth. One of the things that I remember doing when I was at home with a colicky baby, and my husband was working 3 part-time jobs. So he left at 5 in the morning, and I wouldn't have any adult company until, after 10 o'clock at night when he would finally come in. And so there I am with a baby who I can't comfort and I can't get to quiet. And so I would make sure she was clean and not hungry. And I would put her in the crib, wrapping her tightly, because wrapping tightly is a calming thing. Weighted blankets are a calming thing. They're commonly used with autistic children. And so I would go and shut her nursery room door, my bedroom door, my bathroom door, and go take a hot shower because I was away from that constant wail, and I was in a place that, might have scented body wash and the water, and I could just let go for a few minutes of the tension that was building because of the need to comfort my baby and the inability and frustration of not being able to comfort her. So that is feeling my skin again, feeling in myself separate from her until I was calm. Then I could, go get dressed again, go pick her up and start walking the floor for hours. Like
So it was sort of a
sometimes
kind
needed.
of diversion, like a positive diversion to be able to just collect yourself back. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, so that's one of the techniques that I've always used.
Great.
Whether it's doing something silly like going out and swinging on my child's swing set, or reading a book under a tree,
Thank
putting
you very
your
much for
mind
that,
in a
Deanna.
safer place when you're stressed.
Absolutely. Safer place. Yeah. And a different focus. So kind of, as they say on the old GPS, recalculating. Other questions about the writing or the reading of senses, or things that could be of value for you as a reader, or as a potential writing artist thinking about these things.
How do you, this is Megan, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
How do you write without writing? I feel like if you're writing about smells sometimes, or even touch, I guess any sense, it could lean towards the romantic or the flowery kind of writing. And how do you kind of like check yourself when you do that?
Well, I don't write lines like those last 3 lines of the sonnet I told you earlier, like, then remember me. But having said that, if you read books like those of everyone from Toni Morrison to Stephen King, if you were to underline every time that they talk about the senses, and especially in dramatic or traumatic situations, you would think it was overdone. But honestly, because most of us are so attuned to 1 or 2 senses, their inclusion of those other senses and the way that they use those really enhances the writing. Now, you don't want to exaggerate it to the point that it's unbelievable, unless you have a superhero, which in that case you kind of can. And I say right away on this theater guard in that chapter, immediately after he is, smelling and hearing that little woman, I say, the other, my colleagues call me the eagle because I always notice things that other people don't notice. So I kind of gave him a superpower in that. But normally it's just a question of focus. I mean, obviously you don't want to write 2 paragraphs about how lavender smells. Poor lavender, I'm picking on lavender today, but you all started that. Or how a cat meows. But putting it in is seldom something that is going to be regrettable, and anything that's going to enhance the sense of wonder or the sense of terror or the sense of joy, whatever sense emotion you're trying to evoke, being able to use the physical senses in having that is something that will probably enhance your writing. And I'm sure when you've been in traumatic situations, say 9/11, or say you hear some either very good news or some very bad news, usually when you remember that, you remember exactly where you were. You probably remember if it was sunny or rainy. You remember, maybe if there was a smell that you even associate. I will not eat mint and chocolate because my first funeral I ever attended when I was 4 or 5 years old, they gave me a mint chocolate. And it just, to this day, just reminds me of death and funerals, only because of association. Mint is great, chocolate is great, but for me, not together, but because of that. So it's a question of trying to enhance whatever emotion you're trying to describe. I think when we read about the race, and he said, through my eyelashes, the tears I do not shed, and feeling and hearing that, and just feeling furious about those running feet. I don't think it was an overdone description, because you're really going to where this young man was, which was a flashback to when he was young and how horribly cruel they were, and how he could hear those feet running away that he could never catch. So I don't think there's really a wrong way to approach writing in sensory ways, as long as you're, again, not writing an entire page about the way something smelled or looked or sounded.
Thank you.
Unless you're an art critic, which in that case, maybe you could, but I'm not. So other questions? So I think what I want to do is this. I'm going to give you, but I'm not going to have us read it in the group, but I'm going to give you what I promised Shanika to be continued. I'm going to give you a little fun assignment for yourself. And don't take more than 15 minutes, maybe even 5 or 10 minutes on this. And if you have time right after our meeting, that's fine. And if you don't, that's okay too. But I would like you to, in your mind, go to your very favorite place. And I want you in your mind to think about that place, and then to write, it could be maybe 3 to 5 sentences, just a paragraph, describing that place or how you feel in that place with your eyes closed, So it would be something that, it might be something you normally see, but what else is there? I remember one of the most sad articles I read, and this was probably 10 years ago, was a gentleman who was losing his vision, and he felt a great need right then to go to Niagara Falls. Now, I understand the desire to go to Niagara Falls, but I thought, oh my goodness, of anywhere to go without vision, what an amazing place Niagara Falls is. You smell the water when you're close to it. You feel these little droplets. You hear the thunder of this. You can even feel it under your feet. And I thought, it's fine for you to go there and to see it, but please don't miss out. And I hope you go again, even when you can't see, because that has to be one of the most multi-sensory, wonderful places that I've ever visited, just as a place. So that's your assignment, is to think about your favorite place, and just 3-5 sentences. If you're there with your eyes closed, what would you still love about that place? I'm going to throw in a little surprise for Megan and Molly. I was debating to do this, but there's one more poem I'd like to read to you. I'm going to go back to something that Deanna said when she was talking about touch. Sort of, it's your whole skin that feels it. About 6 years ago, I had the privilege of being director of the only known adult Braille literacy program for adults who were deafblind. So, they couldn't, like myself, who can hear the audio on a computer, they couldn't do that, nor were they able to see. So they really had to learn Braille. It was their only way to keep their literacy. But on the very last night, I kind of softened up. And thanks to my daughter, Sophia, who I think is on here, she helped me to organize a drum corps that came in from her high school and some other high schools, drummers, who came, and they went into the gymnasium of the school where we were. And the entire gymnasium was just full of vibration. But I also gave each of our learners a balloon, and a blown up balloon that they could put on their face And so these vibrations, they could feel them with their feet, but they could feel kind of the details of it on their face through the balloon. And I never saw, it was 2 weeks of really a boot camp. I was Iron Lady, I have to admit. No being late, got to do this, let's get this finished. But they just bloomed under that multisensory approach to being able to feel this sound and be in the gym and love something that we normally associate with the hearing world. And not directly with this camp, but when I have been in groups of people who are deaf and who sign, I've always felt certain very strong emotions. And so I wrote a poem that I want to share with you today called Mirrored Senses. And we don't have to close with this, but I want to read it to you, and then we'll, if there are any comments or any other questions, we'll do that. So let me just get over here, and we're going to read. Mirrored Senses. I am standing in this circle of colleagues called deaf. Considering me known as sightless, each one gives some voice. As their air flares with gestures, they better avail their thoughts. Meanwhile, my ears strain to catch the mismatched buzzes, creaks, shrillness, whispers, all held forth for my ears only. Their mouths don't feel the difference, I know, between their contents and my uneven following. My mind, seeking to mirror their regard, leads me to what I want to ask. Do you have a voice the way I have gaze? Does my unsteady look pierce your sense of wholeness? The way your throat-trapped phrases swivel my understanding of the world? In my eyes, do you read some sorrow, boredom, terror, which I hold no visual accounting at all? Refracting my shame-beveled past, I tense as my mind springs its own trap. And so, forgive my fingers. So tutored, turn, I must add, every point of braille on a page, without owning 5 words of your language. Accept these eyes, bounding with nystagmus, useless to follow your meaningful fingers as they wriggle before you. These eyes wrongly reflected perhaps in your mind as shattered mirrors, windows closed to the world. All the same, I must add, forgive them. Time-lost reflection emerges. It was one childhood morning as I asked my mother with hope, "Do I look normal when I sleep?" She paused. "Well, yes," she said. "Then yes, in fact you do." Recalling her voice, a mirror image question arises. I let it rest unworded. Do you ask anyone if I am quiet? Does anybody know my ears are not open? If they said yes, what did you think? Instead, I only wish, from then to now, and oh, today, to lid these eyes forever, to veil the rolling symmetry of this unequipped regard. What a relaxing dream it would be, just to thrive in dimness, unheeded. I feel, departing the room, as you open your hand and close your lip in company, there's a comfort to it. Okay, so in writing that poem, I just wanted to talk about the way I felt like the senses of seeing and hearing kind of interact and don't interact, and the things that we do for each other, the false assumptions that we sometimes have about each other. But I wanted to share that with you just because I thought that you might appreciate again, thinking about the world and using the different senses, in that poem, of course, sight and hearing, but also some sound, motion, talking about my fingers tutored to Braille touch. As we wrap up, is there anything else that anyone would like to ask or comment? I don't want to cut anyone short.
I will say I saw some thumbs ups. Thumbs ups. Do you say that? A few people had their thumbs up at the conclusion of your poem, Elizabeth. They must have enjoyed it.
Well, good. Good.
In the chat, it says from Sylvia a favorite place to go is Sharon Woods Metro Park. When the car stops, I get out and take my partner's arm so that I can navigate getting to the path to walk into my beloved woods. The breeze fluffles my face with haunting wisps of familiar and unfamiliar scents. Floating to me are sounds of children playing. Gradually, we get closer to the elder trees with their patient wisdom and rough, inviting bark.
Oh, that's beautiful, Sylvia. And I love the fragments of familiar and unfamiliar scents in the trees. No, that's lovely. And you've really, without any vision at all, you've conjured such a scene of a park and the way you feel in that park, walking with your partner and doing it. Thank you for sharing that. That's lovely. She was speedy. She got her exercise done, which is fine because my poem is not the main point of this at all. Any other questions or comments? I'm just happy to hang out with you if there is.
Elizabeth, this is Megan again. Would you have any way or be open to anybody contacting you if they wanted to ask you a question following this or continue?
Yes, absolutely.
Conversation?
You can share if you want to contact Art Possible Ohio. It's fine if you share my email. I'm happy to, and I will respond to you. I very much believe in dialogue among people and the importance of as artists and as human beings being able to share our world together. Yeah, absolutely.
If you would choose to do that, I dropped our email in the chat, but it is info at artpossibleohio.org. So you can email us there. Some comments that say, thank you so much, Elizabeth. I enjoyed the reading and group activity, and thank you all deeply.
Thank you, all of you, for coming and taking time to do this. This really meant a lot to me that you took time out of your busy Wednesdays to do this. And I'll tell you what, being on the same type of forum as John Bramnett was really makes me have a big head. So I'm going to have to keep myself in here. But thank you, all of you, for coming. Blessings. Enjoy the world with all of your senses. It takes 5. Remember that.
I would like to offer origami to everyone. That's one of my sensory practices.
Oh, wonderful. The feel of that and just I bet the smell of the paper and the sound of that folding, it must be a really multisensory experience.
Yes. Sylvia's holding up a tray of multicolored little origami. Are they cranes mostly, or are they different animals, Sylvia? I can't tell.
There's lotuses.
Oh, I see.
Hearts.
Very cool.
Butterflies and birds that are half peach cranes and half flapping birds.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I accept the spirit of that right here in this room. That's great.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia, for all your contributions. You've been great.
Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I want to thank everybody, and I'm gonna this is Megan speaking again. I'm gonna ask Molly to help us conclude today, if you don't mind, Molly.
Not at all. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing your art and your words and your wonderful strategies with us today. At one point, Megan sort of messaged me on the sly and she's like, oh, this is like listening to a really relaxing podcast. And I was like, yeah, it really is.
Well, see, you can play it back since you recorded it. So.
And that's a great segue. We are recording this presentation and we are going to be uploading it to our YouTube channel and adding it to our Possibilities Talks web page. So if there is someone in your life that you think really needs to hear what Elizabeth had to say today and you want to share it, please share this widely with friends and other fellow creatives. So with that, keep an eye out for upcoming possibility talks and other programming that we have happening this summer. We're doing kind of a grab bag this summer with just a couple smaller little programs, and then we will have a full slate of possibility talks coming up in the fall. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a lovely weekend and Memorial Day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, it's Megan. I'm going to stop the recording.